Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another session of podcast. I wish and I'm sure you will enjoy listening to the broadcast.
We were on the topic of diabetes. Now, our body is a beautiful mechanism. Everything is interlinked with each other. If you look at the past videos that we've done on diabetes, we looked at the pancreas, we looked at the liver. It's impossible to isolate any one organ or one function and say that it functions alone like this. It's impossible. Every cell in our body contributes in some way or the other with every function and every other organ. Now, as we continue this session on diabetes, today we'll look at how the thyroid gland affects the diabetes and vice versa. They have a huge impact on each other. So actually it was quite surprising for me as I was doing a bit of research to see how much of this interlink is there. I mean, sometime maybe we should just do a video on tell our viewers about, just generally about the body and the interlinkages that we so often in modern medicine try to look at as a, as an isolation. Just look at a certain infection and say, okay, let's treat this and then ignore what it does to everything else. So continuing on the thyroid gland, so could you explain the role of the thyroid gland in the endocrine system before we just step into the diabetes?
Okay, that is the king of the endocrine system is your pituitary.
Right.
We will be doing a program on that later.
Sure.
So, pituitary is located in the brain beneath the hypothalamus region. The queen of the endocrine system is your thyroid, what is located just beneath the brain. Thyroid, the doctors try to see the swelling here sometimes. It is not in the throat, it is the area in which the thyroid is placed. It's a small butterfly-like structure.
Right.
It is exactly, the nature is so clever in its design that no CAD-CAM can design such a structure. They kept the thyroid beneath the brain. Why? Because it's the hypothalamus region on top of the brain, the pituitary, produces a hormone called TRH, thyroid regulatory hormone, which is received by the posterior cells of the pituitary, and they convert TRH into TSH. All these things you will see sometimes in your lipid profile in the blood test, TRH, TSH. That's called thyroid stimulating hormone. And that finds its way to your thyroid. TSH is received by thyroid.
Right.
So the thyroid cells, they are with epithelial cells in the posterior region, the globulin cells in the interior region. They receive this TSH and produce two components, which is called MIT and DIT. MIT is one molecule, monoiodine thyroxine. DIT is diiodine thyroxine. There are two types of molecules produced. So MIT plus DIT is T3, DIT plus DIT is T4. So two hormones are produced after DIT and MIT is born. Two hormones are produced, which is called T3 and T4. This T3 and T4, the quantity produced by the thyroid is a little funny. So they produce more of T4, 90+%. Of T4. Less than 10% only T3 is produced.
Right.
T3 is very smart in working, T4 is lazy. So these two guys, T4 and T3, they cannot travel in the blood on their own. So they catch hold of the thyroid binding protein and start traveling in the blood.
Okay.
So this is where our body is so clever. 60% of the T4 comes into our system, is converted to T3 by the liver.
Right.
One molecule is eliminated. T4 is nothing other than iodine thyroxine, 4 molecules bonded with each other. So they remove one molecule. So it becomes T3. So balance 20% of the T4 is converted to T3 by the gut flora, that is microorganisms in the stomach. The balance 20%, sometimes even liver does 80%, 60 to 80%. Balance 20% is done by the muscular tissue. So the entire T4 is converted to T3.
To T3.
And what is this T3 does? So every cell in the body, in our system, has a thyroid receptor.
Right.
Thyroid cells are basically dominated with a metal power called vanadium. You have pancreas is dominated by the chromium power.
Chromium.
Spleen is by zinc power. Likewise, thyroid is vanadium power. If you take every cell in the human body, they have 11 metal elements, atomic elements, metal in nature. That is calcium, sodium, potassium, magnesium, manganese, cobalt, tin, iron, zinc, vanadium, and molybdenum. So every cell has vanadium elements, and they play as thyroid receptors, which respond to T3.
Okay.
T3 is very important for you. If there is no T3, the entire functional part of our human physiology will become lazy.
Lethargic.
T3 helps your heart rate. T3 helps your brain function. T3 helps your rate of metabolism of all types.
Right.
Further deep you go into biochemistry, T3 makes sure that you get your signaling systems to the human cells in perfect condition. That is, if all cells work with signaling system. If the signaling systems are over-modulated, it will step it down to normal modulation. If it is on the low frequency, it will amplify it to normal levels. It does tremendous job. There is no T3, then the entire functional part of the human physiology will be slowing down. This is so that's why the thyroid is I call it as a queen of endocrinology compared to the king who is the pituitary.
To the pituitary.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So, how is the thyroid gland interlinked to diabetes? I understand that the diabetes and the thyroid gland function are both interrelated. They both affect each other. A person with type 2 or even type 1 diabetes can automatically, at a certain stage, go into thyroid issues, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So
This juvenile diabetes, type 1, gestational diabetes. These are all the classification of type 2 diabetes. Now they are connecting microorganisms, microbiome of the body. They are coming out with type 3.
Type 3.
Is also coming now.
True.
All those diabetic, classification, we'll keep it aside. Now, how the whole body is functioning, because you are 100 trillion cells approximately, everybody is an individual unit by themselves, which, connected together with various mechanisms and systems and organs and endocrine systems and whatnot with your biochemistry, all chemical transfer, all what's happening inside is, chemical-based communication. We use electromagnetic signal-based communication with all our transmission, mobile phones, and broadcasting, television, radio, and all these things. But we inside or functioned with chemical communication, which we are yet to explore. Sometime later in far future,
Definitely.
we may achieve that also. But then now here, keeping aside the classification of this diabetes, let's take diabetes as a glucose imbalance. So glucose metabolism becomes very important, because 100 trillion cells, every individual cell need glucose, which gets converted to ATP molecule, which is the high energy currency to drive your DNA and RNA.
True.
So we need an energy source for the cells to function. Like how you need gasoline to run the car, we need this glucose energy source to run the human cell. So every cell has to function. So that is based on the transport of glucose, which comes through our food and nutrition. So what T3 does, T3 makes sure all the cells get, proper signaling system. For example, the potassium metabolism, it gets elevated to potassium electrolytes, and then further they go to potassium isotopes inside, which insulin uses these potassium isotopes to give signaling system to the human cell, where the cell membrane open up for the glucose to enter in. When the required amount of glucose is received, there is a sodium molecule which gets discharged. It's a signaling system for the cell membrane to close.
To close back.
All these things, the guy who monitors it, the guy who helps it to happen is T3. So if your T3 is not enough, then what happens? Your rate of metabolism comes down. Then the glucose transport gets affected.
Right, and this is
Then
not because, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's not because of the lack of glucose, but because of the lack of signaling to the cell to accept the glucose, if I'm right.
No, if you are having lack of glucose, the body has another mechanism, as we have discussed. The alpha cells of the pancreas will bring in glucagon and they go and release the glycogen
Into the
storage. And they keep feeding the blood with glucose.
Right.
Body is never going to run out of glucose. Finally, neogenesis is also there. Body can convert anything to glucose. Any molecule which has carbon connected to it will be converted to glucose. So glucose is one where either the food through which it's coming or not, or a glycogen, it keeps, because the heart and the brain cannot stop, a lung cannot stop. So, but to all this mechanism to function harmoniously, you need T3. The thyroid does the work. That small butterfly-like organ is making sure the functional part of your body with respect to all aspects done in a particular manner in the time frame in which it should be done. This is what you have to understand. Beautiful. This is where T3 plays a major role.
Beautiful.
Yeah. That is why the liver doesn't slow down till the age of 70.
Right.
When you see people who are after 80, 85, 90 and all that, they are slow in their movement. That is not only because of their physiological strength has come down, or their biochemistry part of it, their hematology and all is a little weaker than what it was when they were young. It is all because of reduction in
liver.
T3 performance or
T3.
the quantum of T3. Yeah, thyroid is the one, for a 90-plus-year-old man to get up here, go to a bathroom and come back, he takes twice the time as what we take. That is basically because of your liver is slowed down, your conversion of T4 to T3 may have slowed down, mainly T3 plays the job there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that is the effect of the T3 on diabetes, on blood glucose metabolism.
T3 not only is connected to diabetes, T3 is connected to everything.
Everything.
One of it is diabetes.
One of it. I'm limiting it to this video.
Yeah, it gets connected to everything. The huge amount of processing of data in the brain, the function of the brain, all your, your visual system, your GI, your intestinal work, everything for the, liver has to do so much of job. Even those liver cells has thyroid receptors. Their T3 has to maintain different kinds of signaling system. How magnesium is very helpful in, acting for intracellular function. T3 is very important for single cellular function.
Okay.
So unless the single cellular function is good enough, all the cells are working perfectly in your heart, then the heart pumping goes on correctly.
Right.
If some amount of heart cell has to go lazy, then your heart rate comes down.
Okay.
Where the T3 plays the role.
Right.
Yes.
So now what is the effect of a person with diabetes, who has diabetes, that is on the thyroid? What effect does it have on the thyroid?
See, to my knowledge, the modern science at the moment is only the first and primemost is cause of diabetes mellitus is unknown till now. Why this is happening to us, we don't know. They talk about metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome is increase in hypertension, blood pressure, that is higher blood pressure.
High blood pressure.
Increase in, obesity, putting waist around the belly and the hip area. Then lowering of HDL cholesterol, higher levels of LDL cholesterol. And then increase in the glucose while fasting glucose, that is when you get up in the morning, the fasting glucose, higher levels of glucose of fasting. These 5 things are attributed to metabolic syndrome, with which they try to understand, okay, this guy is pre-diabetic, is heading in for diabetes. Because his glucose metabolism, there is some imbalance already started. But from where the imbalance is starting, what is the cause? Once you know the cause of the disease can be cured. So diabetes mellitus cause is unknown till now, at this moment. So in my books, whatever is happening with the modern science, the approach, the medical science, how these diabetologists are approaching the whole thing is, I don't know what, see, if you have the polypeptide cells of the pancreatic head produces 36 different types of amino acids in that hormone, which regulates the alpha, beta and delta cells. Now, if that slows down, there's a test called C-peptide. We don't know how to step it up to make sure some normalcy should come in there for the gamma cells, or the polypeptide cells, to produce enough of polypeptide hormone required. Now, we are only trying to address the issue of glucose imbalance in trying to maintain perfect glucose level of the blood so that it doesn't increase, because of the increase in glucose in the blood all the time, it becomes acidic in nature, which has to go through all the internal organs, reduces the function of all the other internal organs and so on. So we are not addressing the problem directly.
True.
We are trying to maintain our glucose with various understanding at the moment, because we don't know the cause of the disease.
Because you don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. So is there a role that, of course we know there is, but how does food and nutrition and exercise play a role in thyroid function? And we will just limit it to the connection with diabetes, I mean the effect on diabetes. Maybe when we talk about thyroid, we'll go deeper. But in connection with diabetes, how does food, nutrition...
No, if you're going to talk about food and exercise, that is why we started this entire episode of the Greatest Tamil Science with the first episode of Art of Cooking.
Right.
Okay. Food plays the major role. There is no doubt whatsoever in that. I wish you understand.
Yes.
Timely food first thing. One day, if you're going to eat in one time, no way. Timely food, fresh cooked food.
Right.
These are the 2 important stuff for your harmonious, healthy, functional part of your human body. Second is exercise. Exercise is a must. In exercise, what happens is you try to recorrect so many things. There are many findings are there. Lactate in the blood gets converted to lactic acid, which, in turn, it helps you to, create the growth hormone, and, it keeps going. The cells, try to reject all the faulty material which is not required, mainly the faulty protein getting rejected from the cell as you exercise. Exercise is not going to a gym. Exercise is not running on the treadmill. Something, you go play 1 hour of tennis, or you go play 1 hour of shuttle, or you go play 1 hour of table tennis, or you go play 1 hour of volleyball, anything. Where huge amount of body movements are there, when you start sweating, you clear up a lot of dirt. What happens? The harmony sets in again. Because you see, every internal organ works with a rhythm.
Right.
All internal organs, each internal organs work with a different rhythm. Heart works with a rhythm, brain works with a rhythm. That is what you read as ECG, electrocardiogram, electroencephalogram of the brain, all those kind of things. So these rhythmic function put together has got a harmonious rhythm in the end overall. And that gets disturbed or lowering down or not functioning up to the mark because of the dirt gets created inside, which gets eliminated through your exercising part of the day. Food becomes a very important stuff. The more processed food you're going to take, the more food which is cooked and kept in fridge for a long time, and all those things are not going to help you. They all become toxic in nature because of the building of microbial load and the already pre-cooked food, which is going to be a heavy load on you. So all these things are not going to only affect your thyroid, it's going to affect everything, including your pattern of thinking.
True.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and finally, is there a remedy in ancient Tamil science for the thyroid and thyroid-related diabetes?
Yeah, we have a perfect understanding. The ancients had a perfect understanding because their approach was completely wholesome approach. It's not a fragmented approach.
Right.
What I have explained to the benefit of the viewers is what exactly the thyroid works. The ancient knows about it. So they know the vanadium power I explained to you. So you have, in your food, the food that they have designed, the one is art of cooking, how to cook your food to make sure it becomes human friendly. Because it's a component which doesn't belong to you.
Right.
And which has to be accepted by the human body.
By the body.
So the art of cooking comes into play there. Secondly, what balanced food? So vanadium is in black pepper. So if you have thyroid problem, that the pepper water, what we have explained in one of our this thing, you do that exercise. You can slowly step up the vanadium power of your body, wherein the thyroid slowly comes to normalcy. And we use a lot of pepper in our food. Second is fenugreek.
Fenugreek.
You sprout the fenugreek, remove the sprout, add them in your idli batter as you grind the rice, 100 grams per 1 kilo, and start having this idli dosa on the long run, over a span of 3 months, 6 months. Your thyroid slowly comes back to normalcy.
So when you say remove the sprout, it's discard the sprout or use it along with the...
You just scrape it
okay.
on a platform, all the sprout gets separated. The sprout which has come out, the root, that's toxic. So,
okay.
and then you clean up you take only the
just
fenugreek,
the seed.
remove the sprout,
Okay.
and then put 100 grams for 1 kg of rice when you grind it for your idli batter, and then have that idli and dosa.
Okay.
It is highly a vanadium power, which will slowly see. If thyroid is having problem, just not tomorrow morning or 3 days later, 1 week later, you can recorrect it. No, it's not possible. Because for abnormality to set into thyroid, whether it is hypo or hyper, it has taken some years.
Right.
You cannot recorrect it in 1 or 2 weeks.
Yes.
It takes time. Then you have to have patience. And if you're going to pump in with pharmacology, then you become dependent by getting addicted to that component as a medicine, what you consume over a span of 27 days, you cross, body memorize it, then he wants it again and again.
Wants it again, true.
Yeah, there ends the matter. This is how the whole thing works.
I see. Doctor, one last question that actually just popped in my mind. In case of the autoimmune thyroid issues, does the same remedy work? Or
see, these are all the terminology, autoimmune, there are globulin mimicking molecules which gets produced. They resemble your TSH.
Right. Yeah.
And then when that comes, the thyroid receptor of the thyroid cells catch hold of it and start producing T4. So excess production. Actually, when the T3 is reduced in the body, there is signaling system to the thalamus, hypothalamus. Hypothalamus will produce TRH, then it comes to pituitary, comes to TSH, and the TSH has come, will produce T3 and T4 and give it, and the T4, T3 conversion takes place. Body has its own function of communication to make sure the T3 enough quantum is available. In this autoimmune stuff, what you talk about is the abnormality.
Right.
Which you can recorrect it with your food pattern alone.
Oh.
Food pattern and exercises, as you clear all your unwanted, dirt of the body, of the human cells, and that's what accumulation of dirt is because of your food and nutrition which is not correct. Secondly, the chemical contamination of the food, because we use huge amount of chemical fertilizers and pesticides. So your food is chemically contaminated. We don't have system in our art of cooking to detoxify it, because the whole world does not know about Nanir. Okay? So we are just getting, we go to a grocery shop, we buy things, we cook and we eat thinking that it has nothing in it. It has too much in it. All these things put together, the immune difference starts. How are you going to recorrect it? If you're going to recorrect your food and, if you're going to proper discipline life with exercise and whatnot. Simple.
Okay.
That's
Beautiful.
it.
Thank you very much for spending your quality time. Thank you very much for your attention. I wish you enjoyed this session. See you later.